In our modern culture, unseen forces are at work to direct us through the media and man-made infrastructure of concrete, steel, and glass. The well-traveled toll road is already laid out before us. We are so preoccupied with the concerns that have been thrust upon us that we lose our connection to the natural world. Brothers James and Jake Smith, along with lifelong friend Lukas journey to the Bahamas to feel out their sea legs and focus on their roots. Growing up in a slice of nirvana, in between the Atlantic Ocean and the Indian River Lagoon, the boys have spent their whole lives on the water. They look to the horizon and dream of what treasures lie on the other side. The young sailors set out on a journey from the peninsula of Florida. They break away the chains in search of a genuine fountain of youth that flows from within. They seek to slow down the pace of life, to absorb and to be absorbed by the natural world. They embark on an adventure to the relative unknown, where each moment is subject to the mood of the ocean. Calm, storms, darkness, sunshine, fair weather or foul, they embrace whatever awaits them. Sailing slows down the pace of their minds to match the rhythm of the earth. It affords them the patience and inclination to cherish every moment. The journey started long before the sailors left the dock. For months on end, their lives were engrossed with the boat and the daunting task of completing the never-ending list of jobs to be accomplished. Nothing could hold them back. They persevered and pressed forward with repairs and modifications. They overcame every obstacle. The grueling work and preparation revitalized the old sailing vessel and their mindset to a state of seaworthiness. Valhalla, an old salt, had sailed the seas since before the young men were born. She was tried and true. The intrepid young sailors trusted the old veteran could stand the challenge and test their limits as watermen. She would provide them the freedom to embrace and expand their love of the ocean.
Emptying the boxes, getting them ready to set out for the journey.
Camping cooking stuff on this.
It's definitely hollow.
I think that would be a sick spot to put canned goods, dude. Right up in this area.
The time is right. The sailors say their final goodbyes as they sail south. Their hard work and preparation is already paying off. They are infused with energy and anticipation. The crew will face many variables and dynamics along the way. They must stay focused, clear-minded, and work together as a team to make this a successful voyage. During the cruise south down the lagoon, the crew must be cautious of the shallow sandbars and narrow channels that litter the diverse ecosystem. As they headed south, they enjoyed the beauty of the Indian River Lagoon. They imagined what it was like when the water was pristine and that diverse ecosystem flourished with abundant sea life.
Time to shut the engine down. Cruising under sail only. Ooh. That's what we like to hear right there. Just the wind.
Going 5.5, 6 knots right now without any engine.
20 knots of east wind, cruising right now. Straight south, that's where we're heading.
What's the average price of 20 knot wind? What's that going? About $110 a barrel? Sound about right.
The wind in their sails gave the young sojourners the free gift of travel. It intertwines them with the ocean as they glide over the waves so fluidly. the Gulf Stream, the greatest peril that lay between them and the Bahamas. One of the most violent, powerful, and unpredictable currents in all the oceans. The warm, swift current often collides head-on with opposing northerly winds to create standing waves that make crossing rough for even the most experienced open ocean sailors.
It's anchored here at Peck's Lake. It's on the beach. Hardy swell right now. A lot of just wind. We can't cross right now. We gotta wait. Wait a good couple days before we even go. Too much wind, too much waves right now. It's just crazy out there in the Gulf Stream. Hopefully it calms down. We'll be able to cross on Monday. Hopefully get some west wind, just cruise across. Signing out.
After waiting for many days, a tiny window of opportunity opened for the crew. High seas finally subsided to 4 to 5 feet, and a southeast wind was forecasted to clock around to the west during the night. This good fortune was going to be short-lived. The boys made ready to cross as quickly as possible in front of an approaching low-pressure system. The possible ravages of the impending storm weighed heavily on their minds. Nervous energy abounded as they pondered the possibilities. Would they make it safely across before the intense storm bears down on them?
Like a 20, 25 mile an hour northwest wind is nasty, dude. But
You know,
we're just gonna be
10 to
racing. We're gonna be
12.
racing the front line pretty much.
In the Gulf Stream, north wind 17 to 22 knots. See 3 to 5 feet near shore, and up to 5 to 7 feet in the Gulf Stream.
Gulf Stream hazards lines up to 20 knots today. Seas building to 7 feet on Thursday night and up to 8 feet.
It was now or never. In the blackness of midnight, they cast the die to go. They depart Florida to head off into the vast Atlantic, making their commitment to the crossing. They struggled through the night to keep their heading, but still ended up farther north than expected by morning. The sunrise shone a glorious, splintered light on a world of never-ending water. They were humbled by the realization of how small and insignificant they are in this world. They were finally greeted by the telltale color of the great Bahama Bank. They had successfully crossed the intimidating Gulf Stream ahead of an enormous cold front.
Just made it to the banks. Finally got out of the Gulf Stream. We're on the banks now, cruising. So finally made it to the Bahamas. Takes a while, but it's worth it every minute. So we're here, and now we've got to cruise all through the night, get to Chubb. We're running from a cold front. We got to get it at least in some protection off the banks before we can stop. So try out running this thing and see what we can do. So it'll be a long night.
The ominous clouds of the rolling cold front stretched out as far as the eye could see. The storm stalked them, mimicking their every move. The sailors braced for the inevitable. It would be their first real test of sailing through a serious storm in Valhalla. The angry behemoth unleashed its full fury. It blasted them with a ferocious 60-knot wind and stinging rain. Were they at full mercy of the ocean? They remained calm, focused, and strong, imitating Valhalla's every movement. She rolled effortlessly with the buffeting storm, without the first sign of distress. They sailed downwind with the storm for 3 hours, while the undaunted Valhalla kicked up her heels to an average 10 knots. They stayed on a perfect southeast heading to the famed northwest channel, through the shallow bank. The storm finally spent itself and passed over. They were soon reminded of the divine hand that watches over them as they were rewarded with the beautiful rainbow and wonderful feeling of triumph. They had just survived a potentially disastrous gale with comparative ease. Valhalla had earned more trust and her crew more confidence.
Survived the storm.
The sun sank into the crimson horizon. and the sailors alternated turns at helm throughout the night. One man slept while another focused, like a seafaring zombie, on a compass to navigate to the proper settings. The ancient art of sailing is the most natural way to travel on the seas. It slows and deepens thoughts to a timeless pace.
We made it. We're safe. We're anchored up. Go check out the water. Ew. Water's warm, baby.
Oh yeah.
'72 or 3.
Wait, let me get in there.
The weather could be their friend or their foe. It regulated their every movement and forced them to adapt to any condition that it chose to deliver. On the sailboat, they were almost continually immersed in the elements. This enabled them to gain new insight and connect them to the boat and the ocean on a deeper, more personal level. There are many places where there's danger of running aground in what seems like open ocean. Wrecks, sandbars, and jagged reefs scatter these hazardous waters. Not to mention it's in the middle of the infamous Devil's Triangle.
Hit the bottom last night. Showed 12 foot on our depth chart. We must have hit like a wreck or something. We hit like 3 foot of water, just slammed the bottom, man. It was pretty scary. Snake spun it around. Luckily we got out of there.
Navigation is key. You need to know where you are. They hone their skills by sailing without a GPS as much as possible. For the most part, they plotted their course using basic instruments. Out there, you can't just stop to take a break. You're always moving and there's always work to be done. The crew constantly took shifts at helm to relieve each other from the painstaking task of watching the compass and the surrounding waters. The sailors quickly learned not to take anything for granted, and they truly desire to leave the soft carbon footprint along the way.
The anchor is up, it's time to go. Out to the sea we go. Troll for a fish, going down south, maybe we'll catch us dinner. Dinner, dinner, dinner.
Fresh seafood was always on the crew's mind and menu. They felt extremely privileged to have the ocean as their own 24-hour grocery store. They incorporated many methods of fishing to target various species along the way. They often caught their dinner by simply trolling a lure behind the boat while sailing.
What you got on there? Little mahi-mahi. You probably just lift him and try and gap him. Yes, sir. Come in. Woo! All day long, baby.
Set it right there. It's time. I just need something to hook under there so I can take that off. That's the fish. Right there.
It smells so good. Perfect.
Jeans over.
Alright, game time.
Oh yeah. So what we need, some waves going crazy. Been out in the water, but haven't been to the beach in a while, so should give us some good spirit.
They decided to explore the outer island on foot for some rideable waves. As they weaved their way through the unknown terrain, they heard the familiar sound of crashing waves and followed it to the ocean. They finally spotted a perfectly formed little wave breaking over a shallow reef. The unknown break got the crew elated as they took their pleasure in some of the beautiful, clear surf.
Now the free for Rodney and Bell.
The swell was small, but had some power for its size. They had fun in the crystal clear water and surfed for hours until the tide diminished the swell, and they reluctantly made their way back to the boat. They finished the day enjoying a small fire and a sweet sunset to go along with it. They vowed to return for more in the future. The crew splits up as Lukas helped out a fellow sailor by single-handing an extra boat back to the States. Jake and James hung back in Marsh Harbor to pick up their friend Paul, who flew in to experience a first-hand sailing adventure with the brothers. Paul hadn't been on the water since his time as a U.S. Marine on a Navy aircraft carrier over 30 years prior. All he wanted to do was fulfill his dream to sail the beautiful waters of the Bahamas before his time was up. They departed Marsh Harbor around 4 a.m. in the morning to make it through the shallow Whale Cut right before high tide. The wind picked up to 30 knots out of the southwest, and the sailing was spectacular. After sailing for a few hours, the crew made port for a stop off at Spanish Cay Marina to give Paul a chance to experience the lush coral reefs that lie beneath the clear water. The strong southwest wind was unforgiving. It blew hard ahead of an approaching cold front. It made the mooring at the marina rougher than any of the entire trip.
Another day in paradise.
Here comes the line.
Finally, they set off on their final passage back to Florida.
This is why they thought in the early days that if you got in a boat, you'd go off the end of the world, right?
Yep.
Without much trouble, they rode the Gulf Stream north, from the White Sands to Fort Pierce Inlet on an overnight run.
Just coming in on America. It's been a while. 30 days.
They arrived back in Florida on a nice sunny spring day. When they neared Fort Pierce Inlet, they were instantly immersed into a crowd of boats and spring break festivities.
Back to reality.
We're here.
U.S.
In the end, during the entire month-long journey, the crew traveled around 700 nautical miles, used only 30 gallons of diesel, 20 gallons of gasoline, and around 60 gallons of fresh water. Their solar panel kept the batteries to capacity for the duration of the journey and allowed them to keep the generator stowed away for the entire trip. You can fly around the world to experience exotic destinations. Deep down, it's not just about where you go, but as much as it is truly about the journey itself. The young, ambitious explorers have learned more of the true meaning of life through their course they have sailed. Our sails can take us anywhere we want to go and bring us to places of endless possibilities. The young men's lives are entwined with the ocean, as if the salt water flows through their veins. Natural feeling. Valhalla returns the crew back home to the safety of society, where their dream began years ago. They dreamt of a world of wind, water, and well-being, A world where no two moments were alike. A life engraved with adventure. They could have never imagined that the journey would become their destination.